Watch Oscar podcast. I'm your host, Eric Anderson. This is podcast number 40, and it is Friday, July 29th. So it's about time for a podcast. And today I've got with me somebody brand new and somebody old. Not old like me, but you know. We have Richard Anthony. Hey, Richard.
Hi there.
Welcome back to the Gold Rush.
Thank you. It was so nice coming in second place this year.
I'll bet it was. And then Bryan Bonafede. Hello, Bryan.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me on.
I'm super happy to have you on, and this is your first year with the Gold Rush. And you did extremely well.
I only came in fifth, so not as good as Richard.
Well,
we all can't be as good as Richard.
I know.
I mean, that's very true. But
it is very true. All right, so this has been a pretty big week for Oscar talk in that we had the Toronto International Film Festival and the Venice International Film Festival lineups announced. Telluride is still on deck. I really wish we had that this week to talk about too. But
yeah.
You know.
But the good thing is we kind of can figure out some of them from the announcements we've had. So
exactly. One of the best things about this is seeing things that are appearing at both and world premieres, and then also obviously things that we were expecting to hear something from and are still very quiet.
Boop.
So what's that?
I said boop.
Boop is right. There's a couple of boops this week that that when you check out the Gold Rush Gang updated Oscar predictions might tell you a lot as well. So let's get to TIFF and some of the major announcements there. They have their first lineup is always really big, but then they keep adding more and more and more until basically like every movie made in 2016 after the summer is on the list. And then it kind of, waters down, I think. It waters down the festival a bit because there's like 300 fucking movies. But the first list that comes out is always a lot to talk about. And I'm looking at like Arrival as being a really good get here. It's also going to be at Venice. And some things that we haven't really seen very much or almost anything about, like Rob Reiner's LBJ and Lion, which looks like it might be Weinstein's only major Oscar effort this year. And what do we have? The Secret Scripture. Isn't that like one of like 14 Rooney Mara movies at TIFF this year? I believe.
Yeah, she's going to be close. A busy girl.
She really is going to be. What else do we have? Nocturnal Animals. So Amy Adams doing double duty. So that'll be good to have some insight on that soon. But what are you guys looking at as things that stand out for you that showed up?
Well, I think you mentioned Arrival already, and I think we can kind of determine that it'll be at Telluride 2, and then ditto for La La Land, which you didn't mention, but those two have been talked about as the ones that seem like they're going to be hitting all three. So I feel like Arrival is definitely kind of moving up a little bit in people's estimations by hitting Venice and TIFF and probably potentially Telluride. So it's clear that I guess Paramount is trying to, get that one to emerge strong from the festival circuit.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting about that too is that Paramount is kind of in 20th Century Fox position last year where they have a lot of players at the end of this year, some of which aren't even dated yet, at least, and one of which we know absolutely nothing about. So, well, kind of two, but I mean visually. So I think having Arrival jump ahead of that puts it in a really good position. And
good for them. So that way they have, you know, a somewhat strong contender probably going into November, December. You know.
Yeah, because we still don't have anything on Silence. Although I did just read that there is a first cut to be watched sometime this or next week. So we'll see.
Yeah, well. I'm sure Dirk will dig for us on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll just let him do that, and then I'll be pretty happy. Brian, what are you thinking about this year's first TIFF lineup?
Well, I think what Richard said about La La Land and Arrival hitting pretty much all the festivals so far is, you know, obviously a great sign for them. I like the way that the Toronto lineup lists whether it's a North American premiere or an international premiere or whatever. And I was looking at Birth of a Nation and Loving, two things we kind of thought might be at Telluride. They're both not, by this listing, they're both not going to Telluride. So Fox, Searchlight, and Focus not bringing their number one films to Telluride is kind of interesting, especially for something like Loving, which premiered at Cannes and has kind of, I wouldn't say it's lost all its buzz, but it didn't hit quite as much as I think a lot of us expected. So just playing at TIFF is kind of, I don't know, it's something to talk about. I'm not sure if that film might get lost in kind of all the films that come out in this festival. I really think that in particular is a film that really needed to hit big once the kind of like the fall stateside reviews roll in.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right with both of those. From my understanding with Telluride, it is more kind of invite only rather than, you know, here's where we want to put our movie. And I think we're only going to see one or two majors from Sundance, and it's going to be Manchester by the Sea and not Birth of a Nation. But yeah, Loving not being there is a little odd. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we'll have a lot to talk about with Loving in a little bit because the reception has been pretty muted. I think maybe a Cannes kickoff was not the best place for it. Sort of like the way that Focus did with the Danish Girl last year at Venice, and then the response was like, "Oh, okay, so that's a movie," and it never kind of really recovered from that. I mean, it did fine.
Despite winning
you know, the nominations
Oscar.
and winnings that it did. Yes, of course, which is why something like, you know, Loving, I can still see as being pretty safe just based on its, you know, subject matter. But again, something quite muted versus the Danish Girl, which was, you know, hilariously over the top. Maybe that's the reason why. So I mentioned LBJ earlier, but only really because it's a movie that has, you know, Woody Harrelson and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and it's a biopic. So I'm kind of curious to see if we think, and that's a world premiere, if anything is going to happen with that, or if the Bryan Cranston TV movie just already happened and that's all we need for that.
Yeah.
And it does look like, speaking of Fox Searchlight again, that we're not seeing anything about Wilson, even though they did sort of semi-commit to a fall release, but fall's right around the corner, so I don't really know what their big plan is for that.
Yeah, I mean, Wilson has been totally absent from festival announcements. They haven't even released any images from the film, so I feel like it just seems like they're going to maybe dump it in like spring of next year or something, like April or whatever.
Yeah, I have a feeling the way this year is going, we're going to see a lot of January, February, March movies that we expected to be players this year.
Yeah.
It's odd.
As for LBJ, I have like no confidence in that, given Reiner's track record. I mean, I feel like it's not, you know, especially as of late, not very encouraging. And
I don't even think it has distribution yet. So that's kind of
it
that's
doesn't.
works.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And this is often a place where it can get that. But what else do we have? Let's see, American Honey, American Pastoral. I'm not really feeling much from the American movies at all. What about Bleed for This, the Miles Teller boxer movie?
No.
Nothing?
Nope.
Not even Aaron Eckhart?
Girl, bye. No. Maybe Sully. Maybe he'll get in for Sully, but I'm not. Or like maybe for Critics Awards, maybe he could kind of win double for both, I guess, if they feel like pitying Bleed for This. But Bleed for This just seemed like such a, again, like I just have no really like confidence in it. I mean, it really sounds like a you tried it kind of thing. Like I feel like they are trying it, but it feels like just a no. You know,
I'll play devil's advocate on this one. The Open Road dated this for I think early November, about a few months ago.
Yeah.
They have not acquired anything else
Nope.
in the meantime. So, and it says it's listed as Canadian premiere, which means it is going to Telluride. So
Yeah, exactly.
A Telluride Toronto launch. Eckhart, it's a bit of a deglam role. He plays a boxing trainer that was actually Mike Tyson's first trainer, so he's kind of a name. And I don't know. I was watching the Sully trailer the other day, and I know a lot of people are predicting him for Sully, but I mean, he had nothing to do in the trailer, and we don't really know.
It's a trailer.
I know, but I mean, you look at
He has a mustache.
he has the mustache, but a receding hairline beats a mustache. You know that. So
Yes, but Laura Linney was on a phone call, so...
Yes, but Johnny Depp didn't happen last year with that fucked up hairline.
he almost did. He was like way too close. He was way too close.
Well, that's true.
See, I'm on Brian's side with this for a couple of reasons. One, the Open Road thing, just like you said, they are the current Best Picture champions right now.
So that means every year they're going to slay? No.
Girl, can I finish? Jeez.
Oh, okay.
No, they're not. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of attention toward them, and their star has risen quite a bit. But yeah, it is their main and only focus. And there is a very real history of supporting actors in boxing movies doing quite well.
Right.
With Oscar nominations. So I'm not looking at that as, I think that's very real. I think it's a real thing. Even though boxing movies as of late have not really been that big outside of Sylvester Stallone. So, and that had its own things coming with it that were outside of just being a boxing movie. But I think it could be interesting. I think we all were kind of looking at Katie Sagal early in the year as a possibility, and definitely not so much anymore. But yeah, like you said, Brian, it's definitely going to be showing up at Telluride 2. And once it does, I think we have to take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see, what else do we have? Manchester by the Sea is going to be there too, so that's going to hit all over the place. I've been holding back on that a bit, and I probably should give in.
Is it because of the Amazon distribution? Is that why?
No, not so much. Actually, it was because Jeff Wells was so heavy into it.
Okay.
So I pushed against it like intensely because his arguments were completely personal on why it will do well. And so we would always fight that if you can't, make predictions on your personal feeling about the movie. That's just stupid.
Agreed.
But it's Jeff Wells, so...
Mess.
Yes, big mess. I should have just used initials or something or bleeped it out. I don't even know. I've even said that name. All right. What about Nocturnal Animals? That looks like it's kind of maybe going to do something. I don't know.
Maybe. I feel like it's a little bit of a wild card. I mean, Tom Ford's previous film got one nomination and traction in some other places, so I guess it's possible. Yeah,
I have Michael Shannon in as the only thing from this movie, and I don't really, I think we all we've heard reports about people who've read Tony and Susan and said it's a really hard novel to adapt. Tom Ford doesn't have a long track record. People are kind of expecting it to be a little messy. For me, I'm just looking for a path to critics wins, especially in that supporting actor category, which looks, I mean, dreadful right now. So
it is bleak.
It's really bad. So I know Michael Shannon plays like an angry detective role. It's something that I think critics could rally behind, even if it's a little polarizing. So just, I don't feel comfortable predicting it for much right now, but it is something that I think we might have. There has a chance to have some critical support to it, I think.
Yeah, I think we've got two people pushing Michael Shannon in the Gold Rush gang, you and Chris, but both have him, in like fifth place.
Right.
And I know Amy Adams is obviously in the conversation for this, and she should be the lead from what I'm reading now. But I don't see how this passes Arrival for her.
No.
It should just help it.
Right. I mean, they could fraud her supporting. We saw Focus do that last year. It worked. They've done it before, so that's possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Done with that. No.
I'm really over it too. I'm over it too. But
no,
I think this is different because it is an ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
But her role was beefed up, so she actually is a character now.
Yeah, it sounds like from the interview that Tom Ford is very enamored of her. So it sounds like, if anything, her role is maybe bigger than previously expected, but. Again, you never know how it's going to be on screen, so I guess we'll see.
I don't know. Judging by the set pictures, he looked pretty enamored with Jake Gyllenhaal to me. So that's just
he or you.
I don't know what you're talking about. So.
Okay.
What else do we have? Gosh, Patterson. I don't think that really matters. I don't care what people say. Adam Driver isn't happening.
Maybe at the Indie Spirits. He's
maybe there. There we go. That's where it begins and ends. So,
do you want to talk about Lion?
I do want to talk about Lion a little bit. Yes.
If anyone should talk about it, it should be you.
I know. Because I am basically like the sole person that is going heavy on Lion in my predictions still. And I'm going to try and be more careful this year and drop something when I, feel it really should be, rather than waiting until the last minute, as I often do. But like I said, even though Weinstein is an absolute mess right now, just as a company and as a awards magnet like they used to be, I am gonna stay and stick with Lion as a top 5 film until it's just untenable. And I'm glad that it's going to be at Toronto, but I also expected it to be as well. It's strange. It's strange that we had a poster for it and then no clips, and then trailers, stills, nothing at all. That was a little bit.
Weinstein is looking for the funding to make some more posters, I assume.
Ouch.
It's a Toronto world premiere, right? It's not playing at Telluride.
Oh God, it is, isn't it?
I think it said world premiere when TIFF released their list this week. So
let me double check. Oh wait, it's up here.
I mean, that's the perfect place for it. It feels like
it is a world premiere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
damn.
I mean, we'll see. You never know. I mean, what kind of basic middle brow fare those TIFF people will fall for.
Well, they liked Room, so it's not that basic.
Ouch.
Well, I hope you're not suggesting Lion is going to win the audience award or whatever they call it.
No, I mean earlier in the year when I was like, "Yay, Lion is a top 5 film," I was kind of using the idea that Weinstein was going to get it in every festival and force those audience ballots into people's hands so that it could win like Imitation Game did. I think I mentioned I went to a film festival that year, and literally the publicists for that movie were cramming the ballots into people's hands as they left the theater. They would not let them leave without it. And it also got more screenings than most other movies, and that's, gives it more of a chance too. But I don't think that this is going to play out like that. So it shouldn't be too much longer before I totally give up on Lion. But,
Eric, you know Nicole Kidman's in this film, right?
Yes, she's still in my top 5.
We've never gone wrong predicting Nicole Kidman films recently, so
this is heartbreaking.
This film truly has everything working against it. I mean, Nikki K is in it, Weinstein is backing it, and Eric is endorsing it. So that's like the trinity of death.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was happening. That my endorsement is basically enough to people to have just jump ship and go, okay.
I'm scared for Billy Lynn because of it.
Oh my god.
Isn't Gingivitis also supporting Billy Lynn?
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna say
that.
Uh-oh. That is
worried.
Heartless.
Oof.
Absolutely heartless.
I'm just saying I'm concerned.
That's fine. I think maybe what I'll do now is put La La Land in number 1 across the board.
Well, I don't know who did that. It's not me. So.
No, I think I will do that, and then I will jinx the shit out of it.
Okay.
But speaking of, that's a perfect way to talk now about La La Land, which is also a TIFF and Venice film. It is the opener at Venice, and that's a movie I think more than anything recently that's had the most movement within the Gold Rush gang, and certainly within just the Oscar conversation right now, where people kind of didn't take it seriously because it's a musical and it's a contemporary musical in Los Angeles. So it was like, okay, this is a cute trifle. And then the trailer came out, and then TIFF and Venice and the date change, and now people are looking very seriously at it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like the date change was the first indicator that things were looking up for the film, in combination with some of the test screening reports that we read about. So I forget at what point, I've been predicting it for a few months, but previously on the lower end, now I have it much higher because everything seems to be working in its favor. But I feel like the argument that people use, which is, okay, it's light, it's a musical, as a negative for it, like this is only a Golden Globes thing, I always felt like those labels were sort of silly, because the Oscars are open to embracing all different types of films, and even though more serious fare, I guess, in general tends to do better, they've embraced musicals several times, including that kind of musical revival wave that came in the early 2000s. So, and Damien Chazelle behind it gave me confidence. So, yeah, the Venice opener, I mean, I feel like now everyone's kind of on board. So,
yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it's really very fair to dismiss it so easily. And
one thing go on.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say one thing in terms of the film that is a question mark, or something that I'm curious about in terms of how big of a player it will be, because I'm sure it will be a contender, is sort of the acting section of it, because I don't feel like Emma Stone is some sort of lock or near lock or anything, but I'm predicting her, so I'm curious how it fares in the acting scheme and some other categories.
Yeah, I'm predicting her there too. And I think we only have one person that's not, but it might be because James hasn't updated his stuff yet, because, oh my god, late all the time. I feel like I drag James on every podcast going, okay, everyone's updated their shit except for James, who still has like War Machine in or whatever.
I mean, would you guys call anyone in Best Actress a lock other than like Viola? Because there are like, I was just going through my list. I was just going through my list of like people who have like a plausible path to getting a nomination there. It's like 14, 15 deep this year. It's way stronger than any other category. So I'm not like, I think most people are predicting Emma Stone based on the strength of the film, and that's kind of why I also think Gosling might sneak in. It's just because if this is really a top 5 film, people might just mark them both down to number 1. The people who really love it. So, but I wouldn't call her a lock by any. I mean, you know, it's the type of movie it is. It's not that baity of a role, so it's kind of in flux right now.
I agree, but I'd love to ask Eric if he would consider anyone in Best Actress a lock.
Yes, I consider Ruth Negga a lock.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
have a seat. Now, that doesn't make any sense. First of all, it's a quiet, understated role. The film was not raved. It has a 71 Metacritic score. She is unknown, which maybe could work in her favor. Which maybe... Okay, well, but still, it doesn't, like... Maybe, are you playing the Dirk Anna Karenina card that the reviews are going to go way up when it comes out in the States? Because I'm over that.
I think they'll go up, but no, I don't know.
Okay.
And they don't even
Anyway,
need to go,
I just don't
need to go far up.
It's a stat category, like Brian said, so I just don't see how. Like, I'm predicting Ruth Negga, but no.
Well, see, I'm not sure I agree with Brian that it's that it's that deep. I would say less than 10, but I have a lot of reasons for considering Negga a lock, and a lot of reasons that Emma Stone is also what I would consider really, really close and really high as well. When you look at least what we have as contenders, because we only have 6 performances that have any votes at all. All of them, except for Negga, are previous nominees and one winner. So I have a hard time with thinking that this list is going to be made entirely of previous nominees and winners. And Negga supplies a bit of newness and ingenue to this list. The subject matter, I think, is just too impossible to pass up. And I don't see it missing. I don't see Focus losing out on what is their number one movie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they'd have to flop really bad for kind of the highest point of the film, which seems to be her performance, to miss. So, and that is a fair point about the newbie thing, except there's no rule that has to happen. Of course, it typically does, but I mean, don't forget about Emily Blunt, Eric.
Oh, God. I was looking right at her name when you said that. I'm like, if he says Emily Blunt, I'm hanging up the call. I swear to God.
No, I mean, I'm not predicting her.
No.
But
no, and nobody should be.
It feels the Emily Blunt wars in the forum are entertaining, though.
They're hilarious.
You know, I feel like of all the actress contenders this year, her supporters, shall we say, her fervent supporters seem to have, you know, they've flooded in this year. So
it is. She's going to be one of those actresses that people want to be part of the conversation, like every year or every other year, and it just simply won't ever happen. Ever. So, but on the Emma Stone thing, I feel really strongly about her too as a recent previous nominee. She also, and again, not that this is a rule or anything like that, but she does bring the age average down quite a bit from the names that we have listed.
Yeah.
And then outside of our top 6, there are people to consider.
Definitely.
Outside of Emily Blunt.
I think I think it's actually pretty deep, but the thing is they're all in questionable films, and the ones we're predicting, you know, Viola, like Emma Stone, Ruth Negga, they're all in films that we're all pretty confident about. But you have someone like Natalie Portman and Jackie, which if it hits could absolutely, you know, be a player. Something like Taraji P. Henson in Hidden Figures, Jessica Chastain and Miss Sloane. Like, we don't think that's going to be a good movie, but if it actually hits, it's super topical, and she'll campaign. You know, there's a lot of paths to certain people getting in the mix, even though we're only predicting like you said, 6 people right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and there's a handful of things that don't have distribution yet, and you know, maybe they will by that time. And we were all kind of looking at maybe Michelle Pfeiffer and Beat Up Little Seagull to be a play here, but there's just kind of nothing really happening with that, and that's not showing up anywhere. It might end up being like, you know, in the final announcement of TIFF, but then that won't really matter. It'll
probably do Sundance next year, would be my guess. That seems to be what it's heading towards.
I hope so. I hope it moves to next year too. I think that would be that would be better. Since we're still on this category, and we could probably stay on it for the entire podcast, Let's talk a little bit about Annette Bening in 20th Century Women, which just had that New York Film Festival centerpiece announcement, and that really brought the cachet of that movie and her up quite a bit. What are you guys realistically thinking? I have her in 5th right now.
Same.
I have her 2nd. I just feel like, but after Viola Davis, like the next few spots, I feel like are a little bit fluid kind of thing. Like I'm not really sure how to rank them. Mm-hmm. But I feel pretty good like that. The putting it as NIF centerpiece, even though that's kind of a historically sort of strange, somewhat floppy spot to be. But considering the other choices they've made, I feel like maybe this year will be a better year for the centerpiece to actually be good. And the fact that A24 hasn't announced anything for Moonlight, maybe they're going kind of more in on 20th Century Women. I feel like it's an easier sell to awards voters because it's less of kind of like an alienating subject matter. It has a more name-brandy cast. So I feel like it's, the fact that they acquired it while already having Moonlight and then getting it for that showy NIF spot definitely shows support in it. I don't know how much of an overall strong contender it'll be because it is a comedy or dramedy, which tend to, again, struggle a little bit. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, Annette Bening is Annette Bening, so, her in a lead role in a good film sounds like a good possibility.
Yeah, and I think people have been waiting for this for a little while. I hope she doesn't have to go up against Natalie Portman again, or thankfully Hilary Swank doesn't have a movie this year, so...
I know, I was checking her IMDb trying to see what she's going to, come out with.
Pull out there at the last minute.
Yeah, but hopefully if she gets nominated Bening with Natalie, then hopefully I'm sure Natalie would not be winning again, so maybe not as horrible as a Swank situation.
Well, I mean, nobody's winning but Davis, but okay. I'm just, yeah.
I'm a little more torn on it than Richard is. I mean, it's all kind of up in the air at this point, but Annapurna's the studio behind it, which is really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, you should have some confidence in Mike Mills. Beginners, Thumbsucker were fine. New York Centerpiece is, like he said, it's not great. The track record recently is not great, but it is something. And I don't know if it's going to be A24's number one. It seems like that's kind of the direction a lot of people are going in because Moonlight hasn't been announced for anything, but we know it's playing at Telluride because Barry Jenkins has like a connection with the person who runs it.
Yeah.
It'll probably show up in New York. It seems like the type of movie. It's already screened for New York critics. And I just wanted to say that Moonlight is A24's baby. It's the first film they've ever produced as a production company. Room was actually just co-financed by them. So they have a stake in Moonlight that is very... I don't want to say they have more of a stake than 20th Century Women. Obviously, that could go on to be the more accessible awards play, but they're not going to drop Moonlight at all because it's going to get great reviews. So I'm a little cautious about just saying they're going to go all in on 20th Century Women right now.
That makes me feel a whole lot better, actually, because I've needed to kind of feel good about that, and that's a lot of really good information. And it's very persuasive.
Yeah, I feel like the two films are, for me, on somewhat equal footing at the moment, so I think we'll just see, how buzz and campaign kind of works out, but, to me, they're both kind of, borderline contenders, both have acting potential, writing potential, so...
Right. It's also funny to me that, if this happened 1 year ago, if, A24 had acquired this movie last year, everyone's reaction would have been okay, what's wrong with this movie? Why did Searchlight pass on it? Why did Focus and SPC? We used to think of A24 as the studio that got movies that were not super accessible and weren't going to be major award players. But now because of Room and to a lesser extent Ex Machina, everyone's oh, A24 acquired it. That must mean they have big plans for it and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Well, I'm glad. I love A24. So
yeah, I do too. And just like Open Road last year, these are the two studios that are going to really be looked at this year and should be. And what they do in this season is going to be really important for them, just to put them in the same league as now, Focus and Fox Searchlight, and so I hope that Moonlight is their secret weapon, and it very well might be that 20th Century Fox or 20th Century Women is too light, and maybe that is why it's a centerpiece, and it is more like a traditional NIF centerpiece and not something more that we're making it out to be. I still think Benning is a huge contender.
Absolutely, yeah.
But now I'm just kind of thinking about the film itself not being, I guess, serious enough.
That might also work in its favor, though. Like La La Land, if you look at all the films we have in the top 10, if you look at the Gold Rush Gang rankings for Best Picture, they're all serious dramas. They're all heavy, like really heavy dramas, except for La La Land and 20th Century Women. There's really nothing else on the radar. I know at one point you were predicting Passengers, like that. You could have made the argument for that, but there's really nothing else on the radar that's like lighter fare. And we usually get at least one of those in the Best Picture race, maybe two. So
yeah, definitely.
That might actually help.
Definitely. I mean, I was looking at Passengers more as a box office play that would get the attention, but I mean, Paramount is already so stacked.
Actually, I think Passengers is with Sony.
I mean, Sony. They
already have Billy Lynn. So.
You're right. They have Billy Lynn. How did I miss that? My God, where's my head? Yes. But I like looking at our Best Picture lineup, and not just the order that everything is in, but really focusing on the total points that each movie has based on its ranking, because the top 4 is all very close, and then the next top 4 after that is really close, actually 5. So there is a really big gap between what we consider the top films and the second tier. Huge gap.
Yeah, which it kind of, though it does make sense to me, because those top films, it's like the 2 sort of year in advance front runners from the big names, which is like Billy Lynn and Silence, and then the other 2 are Birth and La La Land. La La Land, which has everything kind of going in its favor right now, and Birth, which has Fox Searchlight and has already screened to good reviews. So, and then the next 4 or 5 are kind of like either, they have a certain detractor potentially working a little bit against them, but still seem like good bets. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, La La Land's like point difference between July and what August will be is more than double, or it's like almost right at double. It's pretty impressive.
I remember on the forums people were talking, like right before the Venice announcement, some people were talking like, why are so many people voting for La La Land? This is when it was more in like the mid-tier contender, and some people even thought that was a bit much, and then like the next day it was announced for Venice and everyone kind of hopped on. So
it is, and Loving is the film that took the biggest hit as a result, and they've almost flipped-flopped. And now Loving is in the second tier.
I mean, the problem with Loving, I think, is that it sounds so kind of quiet, and it's not even like quiet and super acclaimed. It's like quiet and like good reviews. So it seems like a kind of dangerous formula, right? I mean, the thing that makes me feel still okay with predicting it is that it's presumably Focus is number 1, and they don't have, it seems like, another film on that same level of what could be their number 1, whereas last year, Danish Girl and Suffragette for a while, like they have pretty much the same reviews actually, but the Danish Girl buzz and campaign was just much stronger. Whereas this year it feels like they only really have Loving as what could be their number 1. So that's kind of what's keeping me, predicting it in a bunch of categories.
Yeah, I mean, I have it at 8 right now, and we had 8 nominees again. So it's very tenuous to me that it's making it in, regardless of my feeling about Negga, because I think it's entirely, and it's pretty traditionally possible for people that vote in these to separate film from performance, and especially in the actress categories.
Yeah, she could be its only nomination, or she's its likeliest nomination in any case, I think.
Yeah, I think she's in a much better position than Joel Edgerton is, who's just got bare minimal support from the Gold Rush Gang.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. His role is really quiet. His reviews aren't as strong. He's not like an Academy favorite. He's never been nominated before. So it feels like an easy place that they could dump it. Like, especially, I could see him being snubbed even after, like, Precursor sort of name-checking gets him into the, Precursor nominations. But I don't know if there will be passion for people putting him at number one, so...
Well, that's an interesting category too, because unlike actress, there's a lot of potential first-time nominees here, and we have only 8 men listed as getting votes, and 1, 2, 3 of them have not been nominated before: Edgerton, Andrew Garfield, and Joe Alwyn. And that would be
Nate Parker.
And Nate Parker, sorry, who's our number 1 right now. So that's a lot, and I think when we're doing these predictions a lot, we're looking at what an overall grouping looks like. I mean, I know that I do. I look at things like, it's not going to be 5 newbies, or it's not going to be 5 previous nominees and winners, and so then I have to start thinking, okay, well, who's in a higher ranking movie and who has a performance that stands out. But yeah, Edgerton is pretty low on that totem pole. He's in the bottom section with just a tiny amount of support.
Yeah, makes sense. I feel like his chances could just depend on competition, and if Sully is a thing, then maybe Tom Hanks will happen and Joel Edgerton won't. Or if Ryan Gosling gets really good reviews, then he'll happen before Edgerton for if he's really acclaimed and in a top Best Picture contender. So Edgerton just feels very on the cusp.
It would be kind of weird for Hanks to have like a similar run that he did with Captain Phillips and then get snubbed at the end, but his supporting actor get in. That would be weird.
Yeah, well, that's another reason I'm like kind of weirdly not really, but like for Aaron Eckhart, I'm like, well, Tom Hanks sounds like a supporting actor good luck charm with Abdi and then Rylance winning. So, it's like clearly it doesn't matter if Hanks gets in or not for his supporting actors to get in. So
That's true. He has like a Leonardo DiCaprio level like correlation with his supporting actors getting in. So I think that's like one of the strongest arguments for Eckhart this year, at least for that movie.
Yeah, I like it. And Eckhart actually is showing up in both of his movies, really pretty close to each other. So that'll be kind of fun to see how that shakes out. And since Eric, Sully is Warner Brothers, he will probably get a supporting actor win there. NBR.
Oh yeah, and Warner Brothers.
That film's going to dominate NBR.
Yeah,
like it's going to win every single award there, probably.
It's going to win lead actress too, I think. Right?
Best actress on a phone call, Laura Linney. They'll make a new category up. Sorry,
Eric,
Brian, you were going to say something.
You said you look at the category kind of like from a holistic approach. It seems to me that it's skewing a little bit young this year. Most of the people we're predicting, like Casey Affleck is like the second oldest nominee. Most of us, and he's 40, and he even seems younger than 40. And you're like predicting Joe Alwyn, and it already skews young. So that's kind of. Have you looked at that? Like maybe we're ignoring some kind of veteran contender like a Bryan Cranston that might emerge or something like that?
Absolutely.
Except that Wakefield movie it's not going to TIFF and it doesn't have distributions. There's I was fearful of Bryan Cranston because that movie sounds like something I would not care about. But the fact that it wasn't announced for TIFF makes me think like it's kind of dead. But
probably.
That's true. It does skew kind of young this year. Like Andrew Garfield, Joel Edgerton,
Nate Parker.
Yeah. Affleck also seems younger than he is.
Well, Gosling seems young.
So. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Gosling.
The person we need to be looking at again, and that we've kind of gone back and forth, is Michael Keaton in The Founder, because that got moved again to a more prime awards season month.
Yeah, but it got moved to the Friday after the Globe nominations come out. And I think that because Harvey wanted this to be his number one from the jump, he gave it the Thanksgiving date before Lion.
Yeah.
Then he moved it when the test screening, like right after the test screening reports came out that it wasn't so good, which to be honest, he should have known like the moment John Lee Hancock became attached to direct it. But,
seriously.
Yeah. But he moved it to August. thinking it could be like some sort of counter-programming, like summer entry for adults. And then when he realized, oh no, this is not going to make any money, I need some awards heat with this movie, he moved it right back to after the Globe nominations, because it's obvious that he's going to submit this as a comedy and like pray that they accept it, and then Keaton will get one of those filler, best actor in a comedy nominations. So
that's
that's
a really strong point.
I really don't think he's like a player at all for the Oscar.
He tried that.
Show up at Toronto, so
maybe. I was going to say Weinstein tried that mess with Burnt, and they didn't buy it. No Globe nominations for that one.
Yeah, but Burnt went through 17 titles and 20 test screenings. So, I mean...
I think it was test screening even after it was released in theaters.
I'm pretty sure they were going to...
Right?
And just say, no, this is the real version. Yeah, I mean, that was a mess. Well, I mean, and that date change was one of the reasons I felt really emboldened by picking Lion. I'm like, oh my god, it has the post-Thanksgiving, it's going to win everything. But I am looking at Keaton as a returning nominee and as an age element of this, because it is an extremely young Best Actor lineup.
For sure.
Yeah, and like I mentioned Tom Hanks before, I mean, one of the potential positives in his favor is he is one of the few older guys and revered kind of veterans along with Denzel. So I think everyone kind of is predicting Denzel, but if we're looking for like another old respected guy in a potentially good film, Tom Hanks could maybe fill that. So we'll have to just see on the reception of Sully.
It's pretty wild that our number one and number two are not only both African Americans, they are the directors of their films, and that is really, really not that common.
That's true.
So I kind of love that.
Yeah, I feel somewhat good about both of them, though. I mean, Parker's role is, well, both roles actually, but since we've seen clips from Birth of a Nation, I mean, and read the reviews, Parker's role just seems so Beatty, like so many monologues, and he suffers. So it's kind of hard for me to imagine him missing. I feel like maybe he could. I'm not predicting him in director, so maybe he would miss there. I don't know if the film's reviews and direction are quite as noteworthy for him to get in there, but for an acting nomination, it seems good. And then we know Denzel's role is amazing. It's won the Tony both times it was there, and I mean, he is the central character of Fences, so makes sense.
And there would also be a fun historical element. Well, not historical so much, but if both the leads of Fences and Loving get in, it'll be the first time since 1996 that lead actress and lead actor have had dual nominees from two films.
Twice, yeah, because I guess we've had it with Theory of Everything recently, but not another film that same year.
Yeah.
So
it's been.
Yeah, it's funny how rare that is. I wouldn't have thought it was as rare as it apparently is.
Yeah, it used to be more common, but now it's rare. The voting blocks are different, and everything just feels very different. So I'm a little surprised that it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, since we're on Best Actor, is there anybody that you guys are looking at in the other contenders list to break in?
I mean, maybe if Wilson was like premiering at Telluride or something. I always, because that age argument is kind of why I thought Woody Harrelson had a path into this group, into this lineup. But if you just look up and down this list, there aren't, we all know Best Actor is so, the correlation between the category who gets in and the Best Picture lineup is so strong. It's stronger than any other category. There's just not a lot of like other films that you would even consider for Best Picture with lead actors and then that we're not predicting. So it's really not I don't see much depth to this category. I don't really see anyone on the other contenders list that, and maybe if, like Richard said, if Wakefield had landed, it premiered at Toronto, I'd definitely be maybe predicting that. But at this point, I think Parker and Denzel and even Casey Affleck, I'd be really surprised if any of those three guys miss.
Yeah, that's a really good point because all 8 guys we have in this category also correlate with being in likely Best Picture nominees. All of them.
Right.
Yep. So I feel like, Eric, you're baiting us to say Jake Gyllenhaal.
I am not. I swear to God.
I'm not buying it.
I'm never, ever going to predict him again, ever. Even if he gets every single precursor.
Yeah.
You know you're going to predict him for that Boston Marathon flop movie next year, probably.
Okay,
it's so big.
I will probably do that, yes.
And then he'll hit every precursor and miss again.
I cannot handle that trauma again. I can't. It was too much.
That was I feel like that was an easy snub to call, though. For me, I really by the time of predicting the final five, I was not really considering him for Nightcrawler.
But that's because you have a black soul. So.
Well, that's because I'm objective.
Oh, that is so horrible. I am. I was being as objective as possible with him. I swear.
Girl, your avatar is Jake Gyllenhaal. Sit down.
No. I know that the scrutiny on me and him is enormous, so I cannot just go, oh my God, it's giving Jake Gyllenhaal.
I hope he's listening today.
I'm sure he is. Is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, anyway, back to that, because no, I don't think Jake Gyllenhaal is in play here.
I don't see any of the other contenders happening, honestly. I feel like it's pretty much going to be 5 of those 8.
Are you guys a little worried about Garfield? Because if this movie if it has a late November, early December premiere, how is he going to build that buzz to get him into the top 5 that quickly?
Well, obviously from his amazing performance in Hacksaw Ridge.
Maybe.
Oh my God. That is the floppiest thing I've ever seen.
And his snub for 99 Homes, right?
Yes, exactly.
I basically rotated between swapping out Garfield, Edgerton, and Hanks throughout the last few weeks. So I feel like those are kind of the bottom 3 of my top 6. So I feel like Garfield, he's been snubbed once before. I mean, his role. The film, I'm just a little skeptical of that film in general. It feels more arty, more quiet Scorsese. So if voters are not totally taken with it, then I feel like they can easily just pass him over and maybe just nominate it for Neeson from the acting branch.
Yeah,
I know. What if it ends up being like a Kundun and it's just
yes, girl.
And it's nothing like we thought.
I mentioned Kundun and also Age of Innocence as examples of, Scorsese films that have been a little bit on the more maybe arty, less middlebrow kind of side. I think Silence will be more highbrow, and the box office is not going to be very good because, the masses are not going to come out to see, Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver in Japan as Jesuit priests. That does not sell $100 million worth of tickets.
Mm-mm.
And if this is a late premiere, he's not getting in at SAG. There's just no way. Especially over someone like Hanks, that's just not going to happen. So,
yeah, that's kind of like I was saying before. I could see someone like Joel Edgerton hit something like SAG and then miss later on because maybe AMPAS voters, once they see Silence, maybe they would then go for Garfield. And but you're right, SAG could be in danger for him because of it coming late. So. I don't know.
Yeah.
SAG noms here could maybe be weird. I don't know.
The noms are a little bit later this year than normal. They're December 14th, which is not much, but it's a little bit later.
Never know when they'll throw in a random early bird from the early part of the year that no one saw coming. So SAG can do weird things. But
well, yes, as we saw this year with nominations for films and performances that we just did not have on our radar at all.
Yeah, the adjustment we need to make with SAG, is just figuring out what the early screeners are going to be, because those are the ones that, and who gets them out. Going back to actors for a second, another contender that nobody ever talks about is Rachel Weisz in Denial. She has 1 million movies out this year. It's Bleecker Street. It's a late September release. I have such a strong feeling that's getting in at SAG, over maybe a Ruth Negga even, or someone like that. I could totally see something that happening. I know Focus does well at SAG, but doesn't Rachel Weisz in Denial seem like such like a random SAG nomination? It does to me at least. I don't know.
Serving some like Hillary Swank.
I was gonna say
she has like a bad fake wig and like every
if it was Helen Mirren, I would say yes, but no to Rachel Weisz.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Helen Mirren obviously is getting in the sky because she's Helen Mirren, and SAG voters nominate her for every single thing she's in.
SAG also doesn't like Amy Adams.
That's
true.
That.
So she might not make SAG. So
I find it so funny, that like weird history of her having a very shoddy record with SAG.
It's strange.
It's kind of like the anti-alphabet thing. They start from Z and go up.
Well, we should have done this for earlier ones, but I want to, for people listening that aren't looking at the chart right now, I'd like to have you guys list your rankings in Best Actor, and then we'll do Best Actress in a second. So, Brian, you go first. I want to hear what yours are.
Sure. I usually do mine in like order of least likely to be nominated, like not who's going to win and stuff like that. So I go Nate Parker at 1. I can't see him missing. Casey Affleck at 2. Denzel Washington for Fences at 3. Ryan Gosling for La La Land at 4. And Andrew Garfield for Silence at 5. And like I said before, I just correlated those pretty strongly to like what I think's going to make the Best Picture lineup. So I know most people don't have like Gosling in, but if that film really is like pretty safe, then I feel comfortable just predicting him for now as kind of like a placeholder.
Richard, what about you?
Parker, Washington, Affleck, Garfield, Edgerton.
Your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the overall votes.
I noticed that, and this is the only category where my predictions do match exactly with the overall.
Do. Yours and Kenneth's do, actually. They match up perfectly. So I have Parker, Washington, Affleck, Edgerton, and then Joe Alwyn, as previously mentioned. Which I know he's the quite the least likely here.
Well, you're going all in on Billy Lynn,
am.
So that's okay.
It is, outside of Alwyn, it's my number one in most categories. So. Yeah. And speaking of, because that's a movie that is extremely high profile, not only for its, technological breakthroughs, but it's helmed by a 2-time Best Director winner, even though he's never had his films win. What are we looking at Billy Lynn as possibly hitting festival? I know the word right now is that it will open AFI, which is the day before the movie opens nationally.
Not the best sign, in my opinion. There's still I still feel like there's a pretty decent chance we see like a secret New York screening a la Lincoln. So we'll see. There's no way of knowing. I mean, if it opens AFI, I'm gonna lower it in my predictions because I have a serious question about the tone of the film, like if it's gonna actually have that satirical core that the book had. And also, the high frame rate. People did not like this with The Hobbit. It's a different frame rate. I have full trust in Ang Lee, but I have serious questions on how it will play on screeners. I have serious questions on how they will project it, if there will be problems with it. So I don't know. It's just there's a lot of question marks for what on paper looks like a pretty good front runner. But it could fall a little bit.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah,
especially the screener point, the impact of the gimmick of the technology is going to be completely gone, and then it's just a straightforward whatever drama or satire. And what we've seen from the trailers, it looks like a straightforward drama. So they might be either holding back from it or the tone is not the same as the book.
Yeah, I mean, that's how they're marketing it. That doesn't necessarily mean... Like, that's how I would market it. I would go for the American Sniper crowd. So, They're marketing it as a football war movie, which is smart. But that could lead to a lot of people being disappointed or feel betrayed when they actually see the movie, and if it's like the book, which is a satire. So we'll see. It's up in the air.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think satire is a hard tone to hit, so I could see it getting more mixed, questionable reviews. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm super curious about that. All right, let's jump over to actress real quick so that I can hear what you guys have to offer. And we're
back to Best Actress. What a surprise.
Richard, what is your top 5?
Davis, Benning, Stone, Negga, Adams.
And what about you, Brian?
Viola Davis, Amy Adams for Arrival, Emma Stone, Ruth Negga, and Annette Bening.
And I have Viola Davis, Ruth Negga, Emma Stone, Amy Adams for Arrival, and Annette Bening. So
I noticed we're 3 of the 4 people who don't have Streep. So most of the other members do have Streep.
I had a really hard time with Bening, Adams, Streep in the last week. And the festival performance of Arrival is what had me keep Adams and Streep out. And it's funny that we were just talking about the idea of Michael Keaton and The Founder in August being this, adult summer play, but it's pretty clear that Streep in Florence Foster Jenkins is going to really be that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean... No, go on, Brian.
Me personally, I would have Streep in if it was a weaker year. There's too many. This category looks too strong in terms of lead actresses who are in strong Best Picture contenders. Florence Foster Jenkins is not getting anywhere near Best Picture. Obviously, it's Paramount's 4th priority at best. That's assuming Allied doesn't come out this year or they just don't care about it. So I would, in a normal year, I'd be predicting Streep. This is a really strong year, and I don't know if that film's going to be remembered come late December.
Yeah, right now there's only one person that's predicting all of the Paramount women to get in, and well, it's James, but we'll see what that means. Yeah, I would even right now, I would say Streep was in at SAG over Adams, and then that switched.
Absolutely, yeah.
It feels like it. It'll be a really interesting battle between Streep and Stone for the Globe, I think, though.
Yeah,
Streep and Stone for the Globe. I would say Stone over Meryl. If in December, January, if La La Land is this huge thing, and then Florence Foster Jenkins is what even was that? I don't think they're gonna give it to Meryl over Emma Stone at that point. But also, you're neglecting Annette Bening. I mean, the film in the NIF press release was described as a comedy, so
true. Yeah,
she could. I would say it's more Bening versus Stone, probably.
Yeah.
So don't forget Annette, Eric. Cinesnatch would not be pleased. He would not be pleased.
That is true. He needs an I'm with Annette hashtag or something.
Well, have you seen his most recent signature?
No. Oh my god.
It's you should look at it. It's front centerpiece and leading lady.
That's adorable.
So, yeah.
Well, okay. Good luck with that. All the best. Yes, lots of prayers and whatever. Let's see. Oh, here's
poor Emily Blunt doesn't have any. Nobody's predicting her anymore.
They shouldn't be, because if they were, I would shame them. No, just no.
I mean, here I guess this is playing devil's advocate since Eric is on the podcast, but until it got super more crowded, I guess I did think she had a chance. I was predicting her at some point, but at this point it feels like, sole nomination for a thriller doesn't seem like it is gonna happen.
She feels like the Johnny Depp of this year, and that the pundits are gonna go hard for her. I think the pundits are gonna all we're going to hear in October is how she's going to get a Best Actress nomination, and it's going to be unbearable. So,
I mean, she actually maybe could hit SAG. I mean, they skew populist, and it's an early release, so that wouldn't shock me. The Globes also love her, and a lot of these ladies are going to be on the comedy side. But even if she hit Globes and SAG, it kind of screams like snub.
Yeah, Universal is pretty good with screeners, but they're just not that great with nominations.
No, so they're not very good. I think they just care more about... I think they're more concerned about the financial aspect of it rather than awards.
Too. I mean, even though they had Straight Outta Compton last year at SAG, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. But again, I mean, SAG is just... When you have a random group of only 2,000 people doing the predicting for 100,000 people, that's where you get, like, head scratchers.
I mean, the thing with SAG is, like, SAG voters are so lazy, so if you don't get screeners to them, I feel like they're just not going to watch things. Like, even The Martian snubbed last year were really weird because that film had been out for months, and they didn't nominate it at all because screeners went out late, I think. So, it's like, you got to get them the movies, otherwise
it really
they
is,
don't give
and that's why I don't connect, movies that are already out or box office hits as much. I think SAG, more than almost any group, is so screener dependent. And again, there's 100,000 people potentially voting. And now, because of, SAG-AFTRA, it's not just, actors. It's radio personalities, it's sportscasters, it's all kinds of people that aren't, film connected in the same way.
Yeah, which I think is why the winners tend to be pretty middle brow. Like, it's what people have seen and what basic people like.
Yeah,
so
you'll get nominees that might be a little erratic, but the winners, are pretty traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What other categories should we talk about? I think we should talk about supporting actress.
Ugh.
I think so.
Okay.
Because, it's... Yeah.
It's like I struggle to even find people to predict.
This is a messy, weird, incomplete category.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has right now. It looks like everyone has Armie Hammer like in either one or two. I went through the reviews on Metacritic of Birth of a Nation. He's not mentioned in like half of them, at least.
Are we doing
I said
actor or
actress.
actress?
I was going to do actor later.
That's what I thought.
But yeah, let's hold up.
Well, they're both horrible. They're both horrible categories.
They're both really, really bad categories. As the, if you look at the charts themselves and where the breakdown of support is, there's half of the category is filled with people with only 1 and 2 votes. It's messy. It's really messy. And supporting actress is the same. And with supporting actress right now, Laura Dern, who was like top 5 for Wilson, is now barely clinging on to number 10 with a single vote because we're not getting anything from Fox Searchlight on Wilson at all.
Yeah,
so much so that Julianne Moore and Maggie's Plan is back in above it.
Well, that sounds sounds like the result. Yeah, that sounds like the result of a very conscious forum. It
was a little bit of a movement. I would agree. A little bit of.
It was a small movement. I don't know if it will be a successful.
I'm not sure if it will last, but I mean. It's not the worst argument in the world, recent winner and Sony Pictures Classics. Really, this is all they have in this category.
It's possible, this category. She could be a critic's pick, I guess. You never know. Maybe NIF, NYFCC will finally throw her a bone.
Don't say that. Screw the film critics. They're terrible. So mean to her. I can't even. No.
I think the two front runners probably have the best shot at the critics' wins in this group: Michelle Williams and Naomi Harris.
I agree.
Yeah, Harris is just going to depend on the buzz and campaign for Moonlight. So at the moment, I feel like people are a little skeptical, because no festival announcements. But I assume it will go to one, and it seems reviews will be good because the rumblings we've heard. So yep, Harris seems like she has a good role.
Yeah, those are definitely the two that have been the highest, and Naomi Harris, has built up month to month to this, but Michelle Williams has never not been the number one pick here. She is the most consistent, and I wonder if that makes this category, which is so open, maybe not open, and she's the only realistic even winner here.
I mean, I think it totally depends on just what comes after that. Like, she could just start at Sundance and coast all through the year, but if just a baitier role comes along, because people said the same thing last year about Rooney Mara. Like, she started as this kind of really early favorite, but then at the end, it just kind of fell apart when Alicia Vikander stole all the buzz and had a baitier role. So if that comes along, if Moonlight is a thing and Naomi Harris has a strong role as it seems, then yeah, someone can take her down. If the other four nominees are like kind of fillers or just have nothing roles, then she'll probably just continue to coast to a win.
I can see that. I don't know, but then sometimes we get these Sundance players, and especially in the supporting categories, that they do carry it all the way through.
And from what I understand, Michelle Williams doesn't have like the biggest role. Like, it goes right. Casey Affleck, Lucas Hedges, then Michelle Williams. But from everything I've read, I haven't seen it yet. But apparently she has like the scene, like the Oscar scene, and the big kind of the emotional hammer of the movie. So, which could go either way. So,
which sometimes is all it takes in this category. I mean, Lupita Nyong'o didn't have a large amount of screen time, but again, like that emotional force kind of came from her, I think. In some scenes. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Again, it depends on the competition, I feel like, but she's front runner for now.
Someone that's kind of come up in the ranks with our group anyway is Aja Naomi King for The Birth of a Nation. That is an interesting scenario to me. I think some people might recognize her from How to Get Away with Murder, and if they do and see her in this, that might be one of those situations where you think you know kind of what an actor or actress is like until you see something completely different from them.
Yeah, I guess that could work in her favor. I'm predicting her just because I feel like it's a weak category, and Birth of a Nation feels like a strong overall player. I feel like it has a strong ensemble, so 3 acting nominations would not be weird at all to me. And she has by far the biggest role of the supporting female. She plays the main character's wife. Brian was just mentioning like the reviews for Armie Hammer and, I guess King as well, and I reread them recently, and yeah, like in some reviews, like either of the supporting performers, like Hammer or King, are not mentioned, but also in some of the reviews they are. And I think we know that you don't need to be mentioned and singled out in all reviews, or even most reviews, like Rachel McAdams happening last year, just because she was in a strong film and the only supporting female.
Right.
So, but King does have some, like King and Hammer both have some good notices, which I think are enough, along with a really powerful campaign to happen.
Yeah, she actually, you could argue, I think she has a little bit better ink than Armie Hammer. A few of the reviews really kind of highlighted her performance and how she kind of plays off Parker and stuff like that. And like you said, one thing I always look for in this category is like a single female in a large cast of men. That kind of worked for McAdams last year, and it's worked in supporting actress a lot of times. And Aja Naomi King, it works for her. Kristen Stewart, who a lot of us have right above her, is the same thing. And those are both really strong films, and that makes sense to predict right now. And Fox Searchlight is really good at squeezing out multiple acting nominations out of their number one contenders. So
So since you mentioned Kristen Stewart, we should probably talk about her because she has a small army of fans that would like to see her Oscar nominated. Right. This is an interesting case to me because she became so high profile with Clouds of Sils Maria, but it was just a movie that was not accessible enough for the Academy, even though she won just dozens of Critics Awards, more than any supporting actress. And the César, the only American actress ever to win. So she had a huge banner year. It just happened to be for a movie that was never going to be a real Oscar player. And now she has Billy Lynn. Do you think that what she had with Sils Maria is going to boost her chances, or does it not matter at all?
I think the overall narrative of her kind of having a career rebirth, kind of becoming this like auteur darling, has really kind of taken hold. At least online, it's taken hold. I don't know if within the industry it's taken hold yet. I think we're going to find out this year. But, you know, the thing with Clouds with Sils Maria is it was also IFC. It didn't have great distribution. You know, the critics, she won a lot of critics awards, but as we see in these supporting categories, it takes a strong film to get in without precursors. So I think that she has a narrative there, but it's going to take like a decent role in this film to get nominated, and we just don't know how big her role is. That's the biggest question for me at this point.
Yeah, I agree, but I agree with what Bryan just said. Basically, like, it does feel like she has sort of a narrative of becoming a critic's darling. So I think that general kind of narrative, if she has a role with even like one powerful scene in a strong film, could be enough for voters to rally behind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see this being a critics' year for her, but I don't think it really needs to be either.
Yeah.
Cafe Society might
and certain women. Too. So she has a lot of movies this year, so she might get some kind of, triple recognition thing.
Is Personal Shopper getting a U.S. release this year?
Nothing so far.
Yeah, that would also help. I mean, she might win a Critics Award for that. So.
True. Yeah, she's got a lot this year.
Yeah, you never know. She has a lot of films, so. And this is the obvious one where people would rally around. It's not like people are, her votes would be all kind of dispersed. It's clear that it would,
right.
Billy Lynn's the only film she has that AMPAS voters are even going to watch. So.
Exactly. Bryan, you mentioned Rachel Weisz in the actress category earlier, but she has a couple of things, I don't know, maybe actually just one thing really right now, in supporting, and that's The Light Between the Oceans and The Mercy. But The Mercy still is kind of sitting without distribution or release or anything like that, and Light Between Oceans is out in September. So she's had a couple of months with the Gold Rush Gang where she's been in the top 10 with both films, and now she's just hanging on with a single vote for Light Between Oceans. Are we looking at that her is just written off now? I had her pretty high for a while, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, I don't think we're writing her off. I think we're writing the film off. It's a September release by Disney. I mean, Disney is horrible at campaigning anyways. They're dumping this film, basically, even though it's premiering at Venice. This is a dump. She has a lot of films. I actually think we mentioned who could win a supporting actress, a big critics award there. She has this, which she should get raves for, or at least good reviews for. She has The Lobster, which I know you're predicting in screenplay. And
I heard that, Richard.
Yeah, I don't think she's getting.
Girl. Well, good. I'm glad you did.
I don't think she's getting in for The Lobster, but there might be a cumulative effect where she could win for a big critics award for multiple films. So, but it's just that I just don't have any faith in Disney to push this movie. I've seen the Constant Gardner referenced as like a September release that she was the supporting actress in, and she got in for that. But this is a different time. She would need to hit SAG. She would need to hit everything to get in, because this film's not going to be remembered.
Yeah,
in December,
even though it features last year's supporting actress winner Michael Fassbender, it's a dump. But I think that's also because it's the last release of DreamWorks and Disney together. So this was more contractual than anything. They couldn't have even released it in winter or anything like that. It would be kind of fun, though, to see Rachel Weisz and Michelle Williams go up against each other again and have the right person win this time.
Well, maybe they'll go up together in at least the Critics Awards.
I think that could be fun. Let's look at a couple of the other names we have listed, because right now we have 10 supporting actresses that have votes. And outside of the ones that we have already talked about, there is Nicole Kidman, who actually has 4 votes, so I'm not super alone in that, at least. But, it's still pretty low on the total point score. There's also Octavia Spencer in Hidden Figures, and Greta Gerwig, which is a pretty new prediction in 20th Century Women. And looking at it, Brian, you have Spencer, and Richard, you have Kidman.
The last spot I kept changing in the last couple of days. I had Laura Linney for like a day. I think I was strongly considering Greta Gerwig, but then like yesterday or today, then there was some little murmurs of maybe Lion does not suck after all. So it has the Weinstein November release, so if it's a player at all, then Kidman could happen. But I'm not at all confident.
I'm not really either, and even though I understand what who's playing what role, it's still, there could be some play between Rooney Mara and Kidman here, but it does seem more like a Kidman play than anybody else.
Yeah, I think so. She's the mom, and I think has the bigger role, I would guess. I was also thinking Greta Earwig for 20th Century Women.
You stole that from me.
I don't know.
That's how I always refer to her.
Oh my god! But for one, I don't know if she'll have the better role than Elle Fanning. So they kind of could cancel each other out, and is the film even going to be strong enough to get a second acting nomination? I don't know.
Also, A24 has Naomi Harris in this category, so just pointing that out.
That's a good point.
And they also have Janelle Monáe in Moonlight as well, who's gotten some...
And Hidden Figures.
In the test screening that happened recently, Janelle Monáe had the best word of mouth. So I'm really curious about that. The people that have Spencer in, it makes sense because she's a previous winner, but there is a lot of supporting actress competition within this movie, which could mean that nobody gets in. Or it could be like The Help and both get
Hidden
in.
Figures. Yeah. I have Spencer in 5th. Like Richard, I have no confidence in that prediction. I'm sure I'll change it 10 more times in the next month. But Hidden Figures is an interesting one to me. We got the reactions. I know you, Eric, got reactions to the test screening that were pretty positive. But they also mentioned things like comps like Theory of Everything and Imitation Game, and this isn't going to be a very well-reviewed movie. I kind of got a positive reaction from that because I think a lighter, more middle-brow entry could work in this field. And it feels like something that should absolutely hit SAG to me if the screeners are out in time. But my issue is, even if it premieres at AFI, that limited Christmas wide in January release date is not going to work for this film. I think there's a chance Fox maybe pushes it up. I mean, they fast-tracked the film like Paramount did with Fences after the Oscars So White thing. So I don't think they just settle for this just to be a commercial play. So I do think someone from Hidden Figures might make sense here, but I'm a little bit worried about how late the movie is coming out, and maybe that needs to change.
Well, they shouldn't bank on it being a commercial play because it's not going to make much money. So, but I agree with your point that like if it comes out late, where is the buzz going to come from? I mean, it feels like something that should hit the fall, like the early fall festival circuit, or even like summer. But like you said, the comparisons with Theory of Everything, The Help, and Imitation Game make me think the reviews won't be very good. And if it comes too late in the year, I have like no confidence in the film, really. So
even if it gets an AFI premiere, I think.
I mean, I just don't feel like the reviews are going to be good enough. Stuff like The Help. The Help was a summer release with huge box office, and then Theory and Imitation Game were like huge on the early fest circuit. So Eddie Redmayne and Cumberbatch and all of them came into September and October with all of this buzz already. Like if the ladies in that film start getting buzz like November, it just, I don't know.
They won't be able to be, face forward everywhere like Eddie Red Carpet was.
True. I think those were stronger films than like I think this one has the potential to be. I'm just talking about like things that could sneak in at like SAG and maybe make it to the Oscars in like the 5th spot. I think AFI is okay. Like you said, I totally agree with you. It needed earlier buzz, and the late edit's going to hurt it. But if it premieres at AFI, even if it gets like mid 70s, low 70s on Metacritic, that's what Big Short got. That's what American Sniper got. Both of those films were completely written off as major Oscar players after their premieres, and that was a mistake. So I'm not saying it's going to be a huge player. I just kind of think it's a fringe contender right now.
I agree, but I also don't. I don't think that the comparisons to Theory of Everything and Imitation Game are a bad thing at all in terms of talking about awards potential. I might not like it as a movie because it seems like if that is the comparison they want to make, that it's going to be pretty bland. And that's fine for awards movies. But I guess we didn't really talk about Taraji P. Henson in actress, and of this movie, she is going to be considered the sole lead. So
right. It's just that like we said before, actress is so competitive this year that even if you're high on the movie, she's probably like 7th, 8th, 9th, maybe, in your rankings. So it's kind of hard to, maybe they might. I don't think they'll fraud her into supporting. I hope not. That would be bad. But
that'd be terrible. That's too competitive.
But I think
within her own movie.
Right. Yeah. So I think that she's a player if Hidden Figures like hits at AFI and everyone loves it, and it gets in at SAG, and then she's like in the mix. But yeah, right now I wouldn't feel comfortable about predicting her.
One positive I would say for the movie is it sounds like it's the only thing Fox has.
Yeah.
Right.
All they have is Rules Don't Apply, which I'm like 90% sure they took as like a favorite Arnon Milchan. Like there's no reason that movie's going to flop.
I totally agree.
This is their number one. So.
Well, if we move over to supporting actor, when we do, I'm predicting Warren Beatty because it just it seems unfortunate, but maybe I'm dreading it. But did you guys watch the trailer? It's
horrible.
Yes.
I mean, he was serving ham on a stick.
It was deep fried ham at a county fair.
It was atrocious. Yeah, it was. Oof! It looked horrendous. So naturally, I predicted it.
So you think this will be like Robert Duvall and the Judge? And
yeah, I mean, I'll easily drop him if or when the category becomes more crowded. But for now, as I'm struggling to find names, like he's an old, respected veteran in a hammy role. So it does feel like it could be a Duvall Judge thing where people buzz about it and there's an open spot and people just check him off or whatever.
Jesus Christ! Ugh, that sounds really horrible.
Also, Fox will probably buy the Hollywood Film Award for him. Like,
yes, it'll be some kind of like Lifetime Legend Award or whatever it is that the one guy that makes all the awards decides to create. So yes, but yes, all right. Since we are in supporting actor, let's jump over to that and your horrific Warren Beatty prediction there. My goodness, what a nightmare. All right. Why don't you, actually, Richard, go ahead and list your predictions now, and then Brian, and then I will, and we'll go into that conversation.
Liam Neeson, Armie Hammer, Aaron Eckhart for Sully, Warren Beatty and Stephen Henderson for Fences.
All right, and Brian?
Liam Neeson for Silence, Armie Hammer for Birth of a Nation, Lucas Hedges for Manchester by the Sea, Aaron Eckhart for Bleed for this, and Michael Shannon for Nocturnal Animals.
And I have Liam Neeson, Armie Hammer, Steve Martin for Billy Lynn, Aaron Eckhart for Bleed for this, and Stephen Henderson for Fences. I've been toying with that Lucas Hedges thing for a little while, and I had him in and then out, and then in and then out, and right now I don't. At least for the August predictions, I'm not going to. But tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that, Brian.
Well, he's going to campaign like crazy for this movie. He's going to be everywhere, Telluride, all these places. He's a no-name, but I think the film is strong enough that he has a chance at critics. Honestly, I'm just looking at these 3, 4, 5 spots. They're totally wide open. I'm looking for a path to someone winning New York Film Critics, LA Film Critics, someone who can get their name kind of in the headlines every day of like early December, stuff like that. So it's a strong film that I know critics will go to bat for. He has maybe he'll have some sort of breakout narrative. That's my only thinking.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that, and what I've heard as well is pretty much the same. Is that not only his part really large, just right under Casey Affleck's, but that he's going to be pushed pretty seriously by Amazon and is it Roadside or
Roadside, yeah. I know, but Amazon promised that they would give this a huge campaign. I'm going to trust them for now. They're not making the Netflix mistake of the day and date thing like last year, so I'm going to trust Amazon for now.
Yeah. Okay, and then Richard, you did talk a little bit about Warren Beatty and why you have him predicted, at least for now.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think that's going to last?
Yeah, I mean, the film till like September, maybe, hopefully. But like, I don't know what else would emerge before then. But the film, I'm sure, will get like mixed reviews. Like, I'm not at all expecting it to be a good movie. It looks horrible. His role looks horrible. But like I said, just a respected veteran in a really hammy, showy role in a weak category. So.
In addition to the Hollywood Film Award, he'll probably win like NBR or something.
No, we already decided that Eckhart is winning for Sully. So.
Oh, that's right. Oh man, yeah. NBR for him.
Yeah. So it looks like from us three, I'm the only one that has Steve Martin in. Obviously, a big part of that is my push for Billy Lynn as a major player, but also too Martin just as a really popular person, I think, within the Academy as a previous host and honorary winner. And I worry about the size of his role in the film, but I'm not in a position to say, yes, Vin Diesel has a better chance than Steve Martin to get an Oscar nomination. That
would be weird.
Well, yes, that's a nice way to put it. So, I don't know.
I mean, it's fine. If we just have no idea how big his role is. Like you said, if you told me, I know he's playing like the Jerry Jones, like football owner kind of showy role, but you know, if he's only in 2 scenes, then I don't know. Like the film would need to be like basically the Best Picture winner.
Yeah, because if you look at the film being broken into 2 main sections, wartime and then current time at the football game, that only gives Martin a very small amount of time. So
yeah, it just, the film kind of feels more ensemble to me than like individual acting nominations. I'm predicting Stewart just because I feel like maybe if it is a strong film and it is going to get in with the acting branch, I feel like they'd more likely rally around her than Martin. Plus, we know she has at least one sort of emotional scene where she goes on, I guess, some sort of anti war tirade. So I don't know, but we'll have to see the reception of the film as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I can see equally, the film being able to get in and get multiple nominations and have 0 acting nominations.
Yeah, I definitely could see that, especially if it's like a lower Best Picture.
Even as a higher one, even like Life of Pi or Crouching Tiger.
Possible. Yeah, if it's not top 3, then I'd say probably maybe no acting nominations. I don't know.
Let's see what else do we have? We both have Stephen Henderson in Fences, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, I flipped that one back and forth between some other people, but I just put it because he was nominated again with the Tonys, so there is something to the role. We don't know what has been changed, or, if it'll be seen in time for a relative. Well, maybe, some in the industry would know him, but like a relative to the public unknown to happen. Plus, that movie has a lot of supporting actors, so there's no confidence that he'll get like the standout notices, but I guess of all of them, he might have the best.
It would be
chance.
pretty cool, and I think that an actual nomination for him in this would point to some pretty serious strength of the film itself.
Yeah,
definitely. If he were to get in, then the film would feel. Then the film at that point would have to have 3 acting nominations, and probably like front runner for both like top 2 Davis and Washington, so it would be strong if he were to get in.
That's another thing that when I'm trying to put mine together, I am of 2 different minds. I look at each category as its own thing, and then I have to look at everything together, and then I start to really have to question myself of, all right, Fences is getting 3 acting nominations, and Birth of a Nation, and Billy Lynn, I'm looking at all these going, this is getting too stacked, and that's it's not going to be like that, because it just rarely is like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking the other day about how films with 3+ acting nominations, it's very rare to have more than 2 of those. Even usually I feel like the average is between 1 and 2, so to have 3 would be very odd. That would mean that 3 films are dominating practically half of the acting nominations.
And that's even, as I say this, that's what I have. But I know that it's not that realistic. I'm fine with it on July 29th. I would not be fine with it on December 29th.
Yeah, I'm sure it will change by then.
Personally, I'd feel better. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
I personally feel better about Stephen Henderson, predicting him, if it wasn't a late-breaking film. But it's really hard. The supporting actors who get in on the strength of the film tend to be people like Tom Hardy, Jonah Hill, people with a little bit more name recognition than a guy like Stephen Henderson. So it's just that film's gonna need to be really strong, and that role's gonna need to be really good to pop that quickly and get kind of built for him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm not confident at all in it, but again, I didn't know what else to put. Yeah. All the hecklers on the forum upset me about predicting John Goodman.
I know, I was one of those.
Oh no, Eric's favorite prediction.
Thankfully he is out of that and just seeing other contenders. So.
Well, I hope he wins a Critics Award just to spite you.
I would not be happy about that.
But speaking of critics wins, do you guys think Liam Neeson's going to sweep them all?
Yeah, talk about somebody who's never left the number 1 slot here. And damn, James is ruining his perfect score. God damn it. Yeah, I could absolutely see that, yes. I could see him totally dominating.
It's possible. I kind of don't think he'll win, though. I just, again, I'm a little bit unsure about how Silence will go over. I feel like it could be a little bit too, subtle or quiet, basically, too silent, too kind of too artsy or something like that. But he definitely makes sense as the number 1 person at this point.
It definitely might skew highbrow, but it's who on this list do you see a path to winning? It's even.
Yeah, I know, it's weird.
It's really bad.
It is. This is like supporting actress for me. I mean, Neeson and Williams have the strongest support and narrative and ability, I think, right now.
Yeah, definitely at this point, like we mentioned Naomi Harris, I feel like that could emerge as a threat to Williams because we know she has a showy role and the film looks good. In supporting actor, it is a little harder to find a challenger. I mean, I would throw out maybe Aaron Eckhart and Sully. I mean, Mark Rylance won last year as, the Tom Hanks supporting actor, and I think Barkhad Abdi was runner-up in his year. So, I mean, Tom Hanks is a strong luck charm. Strong good luck charm. He should not be underestimated.
Definitely, even when the supporting actor performance is absolutely know nothing and do nothing. So
Okay.
Even then, so
we covered it. Well, bitter.
All right, so there's two I want to talk about that are not currently in our predictions, but were, and that's the two guys from Moonlight, Mahershala Ali and Andre Holland. I think we all read some of the comments of the screening of this in that both of these guys don't have much or maybe enough to do, and I think that's why they have fallen out of our prediction list. But I'm a little dubious about dropping them now myself, and because this is such an open category, I want to find a place for at least one of them again.
I mean, I think a problem also is they could sort of cancel each other out. Like, one of them would need to get significantly better reviews than the other to even become the one that people gravitate towards. And I don't know if that will happen. It feels like Harris would be the clear acting nominee from that film.
Yes. I mean, we just learned this last year with Spotlight, that they couldn't, even the Best Picture winner couldn't get two supporting actors in there.
Yeah,
and it's
so weird.
It's a tough category to do that, and it's still Bugsy was the last time that happened.
Yeah. Some people have floated Adam Driver in addition to Neeson this year, although I don't think that's happening, but I'm just mentioning it as something people have brought up.
He was in early predictions during spring and early summer, but he's fallen out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it makes sense to predict two people in the same movie in the same category unless you think that movie's that movie's going to sweep everything. So,
and historically, it's happened a lot more often in supporting actress.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just easier there. Although this year it looks like it's not possible, but in general, it has happened much more frequently there. Although also not too much recently. I feel like in the mid 2000s it was happening almost every year, but it's been a little while now.
It has, and it's funny because often when that does happen, the concept of vote splitting doesn't really work because one of them wins.
Yeah.
I'm looking at our list of other contenders here, but maybe we should look at the other ones. Actually, Hugh Grant in Florence Foster Jenkins has a single vote from Kenneth. Lucas Hedges has Brian and James. I will probably switch to him by the end of this podcast and take Stephen Henderson out. But then, hey, there's another movie with 3 nominations, so God, this is killing me.
Which one, Fences?
Well, right now I have Fences with getting 3 acting nominations. If I take Henderson out and put Hedges in, that's a movie. Then that movie
then
has
Manchester
3,
could get 3.
That's very frustrating. It's hard to know what to do in this category.
Yeah, I mean, does Manchester seem strong enough to get 3? I don't know. Maybe. I guess Brian has it right now. It's possible, but
I mean, I think if that movie's in any trouble come early December, I just think critics are going to go to bat for it. And it might win New York, it might win LA. It has a 91 on Metacritic with half of the reviews are 100. And I don't think it's Boyhood strong, but I think it's the next tier down. And critics love to show that they don't have recency bias and they remember like early year premieres. So everything is working.
Yeah, I think it will do. Yeah, I think it will do really well with Critics Awards. It could contend in like all 3 acting categories, maybe picture, director, screenplay.
Yeah.
So, because it has by far, at least at this point, like the best reviews of a film that probably would get Critics Award traction. So if like Silence and Birth don't live up to that level of acclaim, then maybe Manchester will have semi-sweep or something.
Wow. That would be wild.
We'll see. That'd be weird. I don't think that'll happen. Plus, like, LAFCA could go for like some out-of-the-box pick. Or even maybe, who knows, maybe La La Land could be a critics pick.
Absolutely.
So...
I actually think Moonlight might be a really big threat for.
Oh yeah, Moonlight too, maybe.
I think the floor for that movie is like 85 on Metacritic, and I could see it like getting into like low 90s, like Manchester level. So
yeah, I could see that. I feel pretty confident that it'll be in the 80s, just based on like we've heard rumblings from critics like Wesley Morris that said he loved it, and I feel like it's been screening for New York critics, and positive buzz is kind of coming out, so I feel confident that the reviews will be good.
That's a good thing, because sometimes these late breakers try and get themselves into Critics Awards and just don't get there in time. Or they're the last one that a critics group sees, and then that gives them a win, like American Hustle.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I don't know if there's really a lot more from this category that we can pull from, unless I mean, if Jackie is a real thing and becomes a thing, then Peter Sarsgaard might show up. Kevin Costner in Hidden Figures, that would be terrible for one.
Didn't Jackie show footage at Cannes and nobody picked it up? I thought that was weird. So I don't know. I'm not like ready to jump on board just because it's premiering in Venice. Lorraine has like a really good track record there. So
yeah, I'm not either. That did not faze me really at all. That it is showing up there. I couldn't give a shit. What about Timothy Spall in Denial?
I would bet on him getting a SAG nom.
So many people had him pegged for Mr. Turner, and that didn't happen. And they had these like Bernie Sanders level meltdowns that fucking Timothy Spall was not in.
Was that more than one person, or
well, it was
that
certainly
just
McTeague leading the charge, but it was.
Okay, I thought it was.
But I mean, really outside the forums. I mean, just in general, predictors really.
Spall's immediate family.
Jesus. Yes, that too. Yeah, I could see him being a play if.
His role looks really showy. Will the film get any buzz? We have to see.
I don't know.
I don't think it looks great. But, late September release, Bleecker Street. I don't know. It could be like a 50s on Metacritic type movie. So I don't know.
Get a random SAG
be their Trumbo.
Possible. Don't say that. Nothing should be a Trumbo.
Okay,
I
didn't even want to talk about this movie. But what about the constant flip-floppy date changes for Live by Night?
Yeah.
That's
feels like flop to me.
The test screening reports were not good on that movie.
I mean, the fact that it currently has like a January release and there's no clarity whether it's like getting a qualifying December run, just further screams mess to me. Like it's just. There's nothing about it that gives me confidence.
I mean, Tapley insists that it's getting a qualifying run, but I don't know if like a Christmas LA New York release is it's gonna like, just because it's a Ben Affleck movie, it's gonna somehow become a major contender. I don't really see
I don't either, and I don't have it anywhere, and I wouldn't to save my
No.
life, but I'm just looking.
Maybe.
I know
Maybe.
you were tempted to pop Sienna Miller in, Eric,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
after her snubs for Foxcatcher and American
God.
Sniper.
She
She's
is
overdue.
overdue. Her and Greta Gerwig together in one category would basically just make me blow my brains out. But yeah, that would be tragic. What about another kind of messy movie like Collateral Beauty? Exactly.
No
Flop
way.
all the way.
I would be. I'll be kind of surprised if that comes out on its release date and it's not like Delta.
Yeah, I feel like that movie has the first test screening of that was pretty bad, and I think it's another film that is going to struggle with tone and the tone that they want to present to the audience. But considering the director, it's probably going to be pretty straightforward and bland as well. So I know there were some Oscar predictors around that had it kind of all over the place, and now it seems to have dissipated quite a bit. I'm just looking at how many of our, things I have in other contenders that I can just start weeding out and just deleting, because I'm gonna get tired of seeing all these names that are doing nothing.
I see Steve Carell in Cafe Society.
I was just gonna say
I can
that.
take him out.
I promise you can
I can take him out.
You
I just
literally
took him out. I did.
delete.
I said goodbye. Yes, Ben Kingsley.
I was just going to say that too.
War Machine is not coming out
I've
this
been
year,
waiting to take him out, but he kept staying and hanging around in the predictions for like 2 months longer than he should have. So James, exactly. Oh, James. He's going to hear this and be like, why do people hate me so much?
Oh, that's cute. You have Chris Tucker.
I do, because I think he has a bigger part in the movie than Steve Martin. So does Garrett Hedlund, but I don't have Vin Diesel. I don't want to add. I want to subtract. There's just too many.
There probably will be some names to add after TIFF and Telluride and Venice.
And I have these names on here still because I don't want to, get too over anxious and take them out and then have to put them back in October.
J.K. Simmons has like one scene in La La Land. I think even if that's our Best Picture winner, he's going nowhere. So you might be able to.
I'm gonna keep him in there though. I will take Alden Ehrenreich out though.
Yeah, he's the lead of that flop movie. So
he is. So he can definitely take a hike.
But he shouldn't be
gone.
No.
This is fun.
Didn't he just win the AW halfway for Hail Caesar?
Yes.
Oh, he did?
Yes, he did today.
Congratulations,
Sure,
Alden.
but all 10 people that voted in that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pass. Well, speaking of him, the Yellow Birds that has him and Jack Houston.
Is this a real movie?
I saw a picture from it, so I think it does. I think it
skeptical.
is a real movie, amazingly so. And I don't even want to.
Well, Jennifer Aniston is in it, which means that Pete Hammond, I guess, is going to be standing
it's probably
for it.
because she's going to make a whole bunch of homemade Peeps and send them out to voters.
I hope so. I love
that
Peeps.
would be the best avenue for a nomination for her.
And I assume they'll be multicolored Peeps because Oscar is so white.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Diversity is important.
We've taken a turn. All right. Jeez. God, there are just so many nothings here. Jack O'Connell in whatever HHH.
For what? Quadruple H?
Which...
I mean, that film title,
no, because I just want to pronounce it as the Trixie Mattel and Katya YouTube show. Isn't that how it is? I mean, come on. Why can't I just pronounce it like that? Because that's what it fucking looks like.
I hope that's what it will be about.
Eric, you have
I'm
Colin
not
Farrell
taking
for The
him out of
Lobster
that.
in supporting.
Yes.
That would be stunning if he makes
Yes, I
supporting
know
actor.
he is the lead, but I'm leaving him in there anyway. I think I might have him in both. I don't. But I should probably...
Yeah, I mean, there's others you can leave, but they're not happening, like Brendan Gleeson for Live by Night, or Edward Norton, Collateral Flop.
Collateral Flop, yes. Collateral Damage. I only...
Eric, you have everyone. You have everyone in Billy Lynn listed except for Vin Diesel.
It's true. And watch, he's gonna be the one.
Oh my
that
God, the
gets nominated.
shade! Just to spite you.
It was probably because of his comment about Fast and Furious 7 getting a Best Picture nomination. I was like, I can't support you. That's messy.
Yeah, that is kind of unforgivable.
But, oh, goodness. Wow, we have spent way more time on supporting actor, I think, than in all previous 39 podcasts. It's very possible.
Weird.
It's very possible. Actually, it's probably a pretty good time. We're at 2 hours now of babbling. My goodness.
Wow.
Is there anything we want to close with before we let people go until the next podcast? What are we looking forward to in the coming weeks, other than obviously a Telluride announcement?
Miss Ava DuVernay the 13th. I'm excited for that. That was a cool shocker, and she's going to slay that, and it's a very topical subject. And I'm ready, and Ava, if you're listening, hey.
I'm beyond excited for the year that she is going to have between this, Queen Sugar, and Wrinkle in Time. It's I
mean, she's coming
I'm really
for
glad
wigs.
because I think she got really fucked with Selma. And I was really worried that as a result of that she was going to be just kind of spit out. And the opposite is happening, and she has tons of opportunity.
Yeah, she's way too passionate and go-getter, I think, to be crushed by that kind of thing. So, maybe don't work with Paramount, but continue to make great art.
Yeah, I'm also in the same boat as you and very excited for her. All right. Anything else, gentlemen? I think so. I think we're good.
No. I will say that I know everyone on Awards Watch is super excited for the Passengers trailer. This was testing at my theater last week, and with a few other films, and every other film was the 2017 release. So I just wanted to make everyone panic.
It's Joy Part 2. Oh, no. Yeah, isn't that the word that the teaser is coming out on the 1st and then trailer on the 4th? Something
Maybe,
like
I
that.
guess.
But don't quote me because, my God, I have no idea what's going on with this movie. Not at all.
Yeah, a little messy.
Yeah.
Messy.
All right. Well, until next time, then, and in between now and the next podcast, we should have some festivals underway. I think maybe we'll wait until after. No, I don't want to wait. I want to try and do in another week or two. I just don't. I'm gonna, damn it. Okay. Here we go. I just needed that. I needed
Glad that decided.
But exactly.
That's why I'm here.
Otherwise, until next time, please come and visit awardswatch.com and check out the updated Gold Rush Gang Oscar predictions. And if you follow the Emmys, check those too from the Emmy experts. Then you can also go into the forums and into the film prediction threads and let people know what you think about this year's Oscars and vote in the polls. You can visit us on Facebook and Twitter at awards_watch. And yeah, thank you both, Richard and Bryan, for joining me today. I really appreciate your input.
Thank you,
All
Erica.
right.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye, guys.